Hello everyone, Isaac Schroeder, Superior Ag Division Agronomist, back with another agronomic insight. So in the spirit of fall, today we're going to talk about phantoms. No, not phantoms that deal with Halloween, but we're going to talk about phantom yield loss. Back in the 90s, and even before that, Purdue and some other people did studies on why we were losing potential yield on corn, late in the season. So what Purdue came up with is, if we let corn dry down, for every percent of moisture we let dry down, we lost also about 1% of dry matter in the weight in the kernel. So what could explain this? So Purdue says it's because as that corn dries down, the corn is still a living entity, so it's respiring. So as it respires, it's going to burn carbohydrates in the kernel. Well, when we run that through a dryer, it actually kills the kernel and we're no longer respiring. So there's been a lot of people that have refuted that information since then and came out with some other theories. So some other theories could potentially be head shelling. So as that corn dries down and as we suck it through that head and we hit those stripper plates, a lot of times, we can lose some drier corn. It'll bust off the ear and we'll lose it through the head. Another thing that could potentially happen is, ear molds. So we have ear molds out here. And as those ear molds progress, they're also going to take weight out of the grain, and the grain's going to get lighter, lose test weight, because those ear molds are sucking energy out of the corn plant also, or out of the ear also. Another theory is, as they get drier and some of these smaller kernels, they're going to be easier to blow out of the back of the combine with our fan and everything blowing out the back. Another theory is, as we stand out here, these stalks tend to get weaker because we're moving energy out of the stalks up into the ear to try to make an ear here late in the season if we have stress like we do this year. Another thing is we also have stalk rots that are deteriorating the stalks. So if the corn plant falls over and lodges, it's a lot harder to pick it up and get all of it. Another thing is, so as the kernels get drier, we get more cracking as it goes through the machine. So when those kernels crack, those little pieces that flake off, we're losing weight, right? And that stuff a lot of time is either blowing out the back of the combine or we just can't get it in the grain tank. Another potential source of loss would be animals. So as we got husks like this that are exposed, birds can come in there and feed. We also have squirrels, deer, different things like that. Also you think of a deer running through the field, if it's spooked or whatever, you're gonna knock some stalks down. So with that, if we're losing 1%, and we let that or for every percent that we let corn dry down, if we let that corn stand and dry down from 25% to 15%, we could potentially be losing 20 bushel on a 200 bushel corn crop. So economic best time, a lot of people have studied this. Most people will tell you, depending on the source, somewhere between 25% and 28% corn is where you get the best economic return for harvesting. And go ahead and drying that down because we don't lose any of the corn from those previous losses that I talked about. So we can also see losses in soybeans. So losses in soybeans may be a little bit different. We can see animal damage the same in soybeans as what we can see in corn, but it's typically not as much of a problem. The biggest thing with soybeans is, as we go through wetting and drying periods, as we get rain on these soybeans, the pods will shrink and swell. And as those pods shrink and swell, those pods will actually sometimes split open and the soybeans can just fall out on the ground. So that's a big loss for soybeans. The other big loss for soybeans is as they get drier, these pods tend to pop open as the reel hits them on the combine. So if they pop open, that's a lot of times where we hear the dinging on the windshield as we're harvesting soybeans. That's actually soybeans hitting the windshield, and those, a lot of cases, aren't falling into the head, and we're losing a lot more than what hits the windshield. So that's a big loss. And then the last thing on soybeans is, so as soybeans dry, they typically will dry down below 13%. So we sell soybeans at 13% moisture, right? Well, as they dry below 13% and get down to 9 and 10, we're losing water weight that we could actually be selling to the elevator and making more money, putting more money in our pocket. So it's an advantage for us to sell soybeans at 13%, not let them dry down further than that. So if you got any questions about harvest or this fall, or need help weighing your crops or calibrating yield monitors, please contact your local Superior Ag Agronomist. Thank you.